Sorry. That was an accident. I'm trying to remove it.
All right.
Yeah. That looks better.
Okay.
All right, let's roll.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. I'm Shane and we're here with another episode of the ultimate guide to collecting vintage Star Wars figures. Thanks for joining us. Please like the video, subscribe, and comment below. Do you have any questions about these figures? Any questions about the accessories, the condition, if it's worth grading? We're going to go over all these things, but if you have any specific questions inside of any of those topics, please let us know in the comments below. We'll be happy to answer you there. And you can also find everything you need to know about this show at 5idiotstalkingtoys.com. All the links are in the description, and you can also support us on Patreon. You'll get previews to episodes like this, as well as 5 Idiots After Dark, I believe the show is called. That is just for Patreon supporters, and also previews to collectibles that will be for sale on our sales page, rogue5toys.com. Let's bring the boys in now. Charles is here.
Fired up. I'm fired up.
Let's do it. John Walden is here. Christopher is here.
Fired up, guys. Fired up.
Chris is so fired up.
He's so fired up. Brandon says, let's get to it.
Get to it, we will.
All right. Well, once again, to everybody who's watching, thanks for joining us. Please support the show on Patreon. Let's jump in, fellas, to the first figure review. It is, well, the first figure review of this episode. We're going to continue where we left off. If you haven't seen all those episodes, there's a playlist on our channel on YouTube, and you can go back and watch from the beginning. Here we go with Bespin Luke from Empire Strikes Back. John, I'm going to throw it over to you. Tell us about this figure.
So this is the Luke in his Bespin gear, and he's wearing his Bespin fatigues, and I loved this figure when I was a kid. It was something that was pretty screen accurate, and I think my favorite part about the figure was like the card. The art on the card was fantastic. And another aspect about this figure is we're getting into where Star Wars or Kenner started. Of course, we saw it with IG-88, but we started seeing more accessories.
All right. Yeah, let's go to Charles. You're going to tell us a little bit more about the accessories that came with this guy.
So Luke Bespin, he has a solid blue Rebel blaster. I'm pretty sure we went over what to look for on repros and stuff like that. And his lightsaber, I think, is awesome. The Luke Farm Boy lightsaber, so fragile. They all broke. These are really cool. These have a few different molds. What I find is that most, or like a lot of the repros, are the painted sabers. So I would just rub it on a sheet of white paper, and see if it's painted. But there's a lot of repros of the Rebel Blaster, and there's a lot of repros for the saber too. You just got to be careful.
And Charles, did they just carry the yellow color over from the Farm Boy Luke? So we still don't know where the yellow color came from for the saber, but
they probably just like use the same like dye.
Yeah,
with saving money or something.
All right, let's send it over to Brandon now. Brandon's going to tell us what to look for condition-wise for this figure. If you're looking for a higher level quality figure, what should we keep our eyes out for, Brandon?
You would have think they would have fixed the saber by now, but anyway. Top to bottom on this figure, the biggest thing that you always see with this figure is the torso degrading. You'll see the torso be a different color than the legs and the arms. So, and vice versa. Sometimes you'll see the arms and the legs will be like a pinkish or purplish color when those degrade as well. This one right here is very nice. Uniform color throughout. So that's what you're looking for, is to find one that has uniform, nice tan color throughout, nothing changing on there. But usually with these, you'll see that the hair tends to get a lot of rubs on it, and so do the eyebrows and the eyes, because those are painted with some thinner type of paint. Then the hands, like this one has the blaster and the saber in there. The hands are very prone to getting any kind of marks on them as well. The other big thing about this figure is the belt and the lightsaber that's on there. Those are always rubbed, especially in the back. I don't know if you have a picture of the backside, but right below his lower back, there's this little part that protrudes. It's part of the black belt, and that almost always has rubs on it. So double check that when you're checking for these as well. And then the boots, obviously, you get some paint wear along the boots because these are painted boots. And again, using the same thin paint. But that's pretty much it for this guy.
Yeah, and that yellow hair, you really do have to look closely because it's, obviously molded beige plastic. Sometimes you don't notice the rubs at first, but they're very prone to rubs there, so you got to take a close look at that. All right, so Chris, I'm going to throw it over to you. Tell us about the current value. Here we are in 2024. Current value of this figure, and just kind of, end that with, is this a gradable figure? Are we sending this figure in to get graded? Is it for preservation? Is it for the value? Tell us that part of it.
The way I always value a Luke Bespin is the saber is $35, the blaster is $20, so you're already looking at $55. If you ever find it under $55, you just buy it because that's the accessories alone. Then I kind of base the figure. Honestly, if the figure is discolored and kind of looks like crap, it could be a couple of dollars. And if he's really nice, if someone charged $10, $15, you're going to pay it all day long very easily. So on average, he can be between $60 and $70. Really depends on condition. That's how we price it on Rogue 5. That's not how everyone else prices it on Facebook, but that's how we do it normally. Brown hair would be more money, and then orange hair is even more money. If you can grade him and he gets an 85, then he's definitely worth grading for sure. He's a very tough figure to get an 85. I would say, without a doubt, top 10 in the whole line. But he's very hard to get an 85 in. So if you're sure you can get an 85, then you do it.
Right.
Because of the degradation of the torso.
You'll see that in most of the mocks. Whenever you see a Luke Bespin mock rated, I'm not going to say all the time, but most of the time, it's the card score, the blister score, the figure score. The figure score is always a 75 or an 80. It's never any higher, always because he discolors inside the blister also.
Yeah.
Very,
and the
very
last thing I'll add on about this figure is there are quite a few variants in terms of the paint application. Chris, you just alluded to that. So there are a lot of collectors out there who focus on Luke Bespin, even if it's just one of their many focuses. A lot of collectors do love this figure because it's not hard to want to and to get multiple of them because there are different color boots, different color hair. So it's a fun figure. It looks rather plain with the kind of the monotone color, but true vintage collectors do like to look for those variations and line those guys up. All right, very good. We're going to jump over to the next figure now, and that is going to be one of our favorites, one of everybody's favorites. Let's see if we can get her on the screen.
Oh,
Yoda's getting excited. Yoda.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, Yoda.
Yoda's getting excited.
Sit down, Yoda.
Oh.
No, Yoda.
There
It's
she
not
is.
Yoda.
It's not Yoda. So this is Bespin Princess Leia. Leia in her Cloud City attire, a new hairdo in that scene and everything. John, I'm going to throw it over to you. You just tell us a little bit about this character and the figure that goes along with it.
Yeah, this is our first variant or variation of Princess Leia that we get. And she's in her Bespin attire. And I always thought it was a little weird. Didn't quite look screen accurate as, the Bespin Luke does, but, it's something different, something new. And
that cape throws you off, right? Because it's not like a cloth goods,
Yeah.
It's not really screen accurate.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's throw it over to Charles. Charles, we just have the one accessory, but also the cape as well. And we all, for the vintage collectors, we know there's some variations there with the cape. So tell us about the accessories for Princess Leia.
Well, she's supposed to have paint on her body, but she has none. But on the cape, there are so many different versions of it that you would have to look it up. There's just so many. The blaster, So she can get a solid blue Princess Leia blaster, or she can get a blue black. So she can get one or the other. I think most people probably want the blue black with her. And I think we already went over that weeks ago about what to look for on her blaster. So if you want to look up probably one of the first videos we've done, we went over the Leia blaster.
And just because I don't have a shot of the figure from the back, if anybody would like to see what the pattern of the cape is, there you go. And, there are variations with the color of ink that's printed on the cape, for different versions from different
whole
factories.
Sizes, like all of that.
Yeah.
There's just
Texture,
so many variants.
everything, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a shot of the cape for you. And, we're borrowing some photos from a website that we've shouted out before. It's the galacticcollector.com. Found many nice photos in this site, so give them a shout for putting that service out to the collectors. But you know what? I don't mind showing this photo, guys. This is absolutely not the most perfect Leia Bespin. Her paint is really nice on her limbs, but that brown blackish at the bottom of her dress there is supposed to be metallic gold, and it just goes to show you how often that gold metallic paint has degraded, and is same as around her collar as well. So this is, a very typical version of this figure that you'll find now 40 years later. So let's throw it over to Brandon. He's going to tell us overall condition-wise what to look for this figure when you're really trying to find a nice version.
Well, you already covered most of it, so I think we're good.
Oh, stop it.
The number one thing that pops out, like you all mentioned, the gold. She has gold trim around her collar and around the bottom of her dress there. And also in the back, if you lift up the skirt there, she should have more gold paint down there. So where you see that brown, that actually used to be gold. So that's the first thing that degrades the most. If you find a really nice gold one, you'll get lucky there. So it's top to bottom. Her hair obviously gets a lot of scuffs and stuff on it. So double check the hair, double check her ponytail on the back. Ensure that that's fully painted. Her eyes and her eyebrows tend to get some rubs on them as well. She's pretty much a solid figure. That's solid red. So double check her hands. That's another problematic area where you'll see paint rubs on, is the tips of her fingers on there. And then some minor degradation sometimes with the figure itself turning a different, like almost a purplish hue instead of the red that's supposed to be throughout. You'll see like a pearlescent glow to her arms and her legs sometimes as well, and maybe the hair. But another thing to check for in condition is the cape, ensuring that there's no holes on or tears in the armholes that she has on there, and just double checking that. So that's always a problematic area as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So
and if you really want to be particular, you can take a look for the paint application at the wrists. So, not a paint rub, but sometimes from the factory you won't get that nice point on the top of her hand like you see in that photo. So if you're really being particular, you can keep an eye out for the paint apps too, the applications. Yep. Christopher, let's throw it over to you. Let's talk about, here we are again, and like I said, in 2024, the current value of this figure and where you stand on grading currently.
She is currently going for around $65 to $70, though I think she should be going for more, honestly.
Yeah.
Because her cape alone, when it's really nice with no stains and cuts or anything on the armhole, you can sell it for $20, and it would be for sale for about 5 minutes until someone snags it. And then her blue blast burr can sell for $55 all day long. So right there, you're already looking at $75, not counting the figure. And then the figure just goes by condition. So depends on, that's not a good example. So that would be maybe $5, at least in my eyes. But if you find one that's really nice with a lot of gold and someone was asking $20 for it, you pay it because you just don't see it.
Well, this one right here is the turtleneck version, so it goes for a little bit more as well.
Correct.
Yeah, and the gold turns green on this one.
On her neck, yeah. So, I mean, you see them a lot going for complete right now, around $65. As I said, it should be more personally, but, $70 around that, you'll see.
Right, and then, of course, if she has the blue-black blaster, a little bit more for that one.
Yeah. And she is definitely a figure that is worth grading as long as you know you are sending it in and she is going to receive a high grade, because she is also a very tough figure to get an 85 in.
Yeah, fair enough. And it's a bit of a crapshoot with this figure as well, because you might find one with really nice gold, and then she's got rubs elsewhere, and vice versa. So
It happens a lot.
yeah, sometimes it's just tricky to find the right combination of a figure with no rubs as well as the gold that has survived for 42, 43 years. All right. Let's see here. Where shall we go next? Let's spin the wheel. We will go to Lando Calrissian, also from Empire Strikes Back, of course. That's his introduction into the trilogy. Billy D. Williams, an iconic role for him and for all the Star Wars fans. Let's throw it over to John Walden. He is going to tell us about this character and the figure that goes along with it.
Yeah, this is Colt 45's first appearance here. I think it's the first black character that we have in the Star Wars universe. And yeah, pretty much looks like Billy D. Williams.
Yeah, they did a good job with the likeness.
Yeah, and I've always wondered about the cape too, though. That's always been like, why is it shorter than all the other capes?
I believe it's so it doesn't drag on the floor when he goes into the men's room.
Oh, probably.
It's always knee high, always.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, this one is pretty close to screen accurate. Not as accurate as the Bespin fatigues, but more accurate than, in my opinion, than the Leia Bespin outfit. But pretty cool figure. I loved the opportunity to have a Lando figure when I was a kid, for sure. And this is the first time that we see this accessory.
Oh, okay. And I'm noticing this is an example of the smiling Lando, as we call him. Charles, go ahead and tell us about the accessories that come with this figure.
So this figure is kind of like a shame, because it's really not like worth that much, and he's got like a vinyl cape and he has a blaster, but like nobody really cares. Why does that matter? Because usually higher valued, accessories and stuff, like maybe like repro'd. I've never seen like a repro Lando like cape before, so I don't think anyone's really making them, and they're just like not like valued that high. But the cape, obviously, if it looks like it's not right, it's probably not. So I would still check it out. And then he has his Bespin Blasper. So those are highly, highly repro'd. I find them all the time, and they're usually like made out of like a white like plastic, and it's just like very, very hard. It sounds different, and if you snap it, it snaps right in half, and it's just white on the inside.
Yeah, so just to rehash, Charles, right? Any of those accessories that you fear may be painted, it sounds really silly, but you could take a piece of paper and you can rub it on there like a colored pencil, and if you see any color show up on the white piece of paper, it's the paint on the fake accessory rubbing off. So that's a really easy way to test.
So these are a little bit harder, because I usually don't see one that's painted. It's like
it's like molded white inside.
It's like rock hard, and
okay.
Usually I just snap it in half, and I'm like right like 99.9% of the time.
Okay,
and it's fake.
Yeah, fair enough. And so once you get some experience with that, there's a couple different tests. The drop test might sound a little different. The float test. There's a couple things out there.
Yep.
All right, let's throw it over to Brandon. He's going to just tell us about the problem areas of this figure to watch out for in finding a nice example for your collection.
Let's start off with his hair. His hair usually always has some kind of rubs to it, so you always want to check for nicely painted head and hair. Don't really see too many rubs, maybe some around the eyebrows there. Going down there, the next problem issue that I always find in these figures is the hands. There's always some kind of rubs on the fingers or the hands or something, because those are always sticking out. So double check that those are painted nicely. And then the rest of this figure has got, blue molded the legs there, but the torso is not. So the torso is that light blue color. So if you were to lift the cape up, you always check his butt. His Not only does he work out, but you always want to check for rubs there, because that's a spot that sticks out a little bit and it gets stuck to the cape. Sometimes the cape and that interact, and then it'll cause some paint degradation around his backside there. So double check that, and you might want to check the cape too to ensure that the cape's doesn't have any paint on it. These, same thing with every cape that we review. They always tend to tear, so check around the armholes and ensure that everything's good there. Also, this figure, they're 40 plus years old, so they degrade from now and then. So sometimes you'll see like a greenish hue to Lando's shirt. So that's one of the problem areas as well. But other than that, he's not too hard to find in pretty nice shape. Usually I always see them with the hands that are always kind of scuffed up or some paint missing there. But other than that, pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know if this is something that I heard one time and I took it for more than it really should be paid attention to, but I've heard that his hair is one of the number one spots across this line that gets touched up. So take a good look at the hair. It is very prone to rubs, like Brandon said, but I've always heard that is a spot that people touch up because it's black, so it can just be touched up with a little smudge of Sharpie or something. So just keep an eye out for any like different looking shininess in the hair to make sure it's not something like that.
I haven't seen too many repairs on these guys, but the Death Squad commander that we've already covered, that guy, I find paint and Sharpie marks on that guy's helmet all the time.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, an easy way to do that is if you have a little black light, a little magnifying glass or something. But if you don't, just take a look for the shininess and see if you can notice a difference. All right, great. Let's send it over to Chris. You're going to wrap up this figure for us with the current value and how you feel about grading this guy.
He is about $20, give or take, depending on condition. The blast spur is $8. His cape perfect with no rips is $6. And then the value of the figure. So if you find one for $20, $18, I would say it's a good deal as long as it's in good condition. He is a figure that is definitely not worth grading. He got killed by the loose graded market. You do not loose grade this guy unless you need him or want him for your collection. Mm-hmm. That is pretty much the only reason why you would do it nowadays.
And would you recommend, kind of piggybacking off what you just said, if you do need him for your collection, just go out there and find one graded at this point?
If you do need him for a collection, personally, I would go out and buy one already graded, so you don't have to wait 4 months for it or whatever, how long it takes. Right. He's just not worth it. You can find him probably for $100, $110. Like, why spend $20 on the figure and then drop $80 to $90 to loose grade him, wait 4 months when you can spend the exact same amount and get one already done?
Right, and then you know what figure, what grade you're going to end up with. Then,
yeah, you know exactly what you're getting when you buy it.
Okay, all right, good. All right, last up for this episode, and once again, folks, this is going to be a series that we're going to continue with to go through the entire Vintage Star Wars Kenner line. If you haven't seen any of the previous episodes, or not all of them, we have them set up as a playlist right on our channel here on YouTube. So go check out the other episodes, and we'll review those other figures for you. The last one on this list, and again, a shout out to Galactic Collector for a website with some nice photos on it that we can share with you. It's the Bespin Guard, and this is the white Bespin security guard. There's also another guard that we'll cover in another episode. But let's throw it over to John. John, tell us about this figure.
Yeah, this is actually one of my favorite secondary kind of figures from the Empire Strikes Back line. Not my favorite. That's coming up in a few episodes, but this one is really, really screen accurate. If you ask me, it looks a lot like the characters the guards that were in the film. And he's got the red cuffs and he's got the gold fleur-de-lis on the bottom and all that. I mean, just there's something about him. He's one of my favorites. Like as far as like the secondary characters that came out in the Empire Strikes Back line is the Bespin Guard. But they did a really good job with him, I think. And again, he's up there.
He's missing the ice cream maker, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
he
he's
doesn't.
missing the ice cream maker.
Yeah, he doesn't have the secondary accessory, the ice cream maker.
No.
But I also noticed I think this is the Fu Manchu version, the long
Fu
mustache.
Manchu,
Yeah. There's another version of this figure with a shorter mustache. And it's also an army builder. A lot of people collect these in an army capacity because you could have a whole squad of these guys. Let's throw it over to Charles. I know this is going to be a short visit with you, but tell us about the accessory with this guy.
Yes, so the accessory we just went over with Lando. The only things I kind of saved for this one is there's so many different variants of this actual blaster. There's a darker blue, lighter blue, the translucent. So there's different variants of it. And not to jump over Brandon, but if you see one we're looking at it right now and the gold is good and all that stuff, I would buy it. Because he's, very hard to find in this condition.
Yeah, and I've been fooled a bunch of times early on by this guy because you look at it quick and you see, oh, he's got the gold, it's not faded off, and then you look closer and there's all different, versions of how much gold is on there.
Yeah.
Brandon, what are the things? What are the main things that you focus on with this figure when you come across this guy?
I love this figure. But I also hate this figure because this figure, like Charles is saying, is very hard to find in nice condition. His hat usually has some rubs near the top or along the brim there by his face. The gold is always an issue. Finding gold that goes throughout, so that gold wraps around to his back. So it's always pretty hard to find good gold. If you find, like they said, a really nice gold one, look at buying that. But the other issue with this figure that I hate the most is I can never find a nice pair of, nice painted hands. Usually, there's always scuffs on the hands, and the red cuffs as well always have some scuff marks, and it'll show blue, which is the original color of the figure. So, always check the hands, the cuffs, and then the gold. The rest of the figure is molded plastic. It's all blue plastic, so I don't really, from his torso down, there really isn't anything to look for on there, but double checking that the gold wraps around to his back and that that there's no paint rows in the hands or the hat seem to be the number one problematic area with this figure.
Okay, all right, thanks, Chris. To wrap up this episode, throwing it over to you for the value of this guy and where you stand on grading this loose figure.
Give or take, he's around $15 total. And it's mainly because the blaster is only $8. So then you add the condition of the figure itself, and it can go up and down. But that's kind of like a baseline. Like they said, it's very hard to find a figure with all gold. Will people care and pay the premium? Some will. We would, because I think we know how hard it is. Most people would just laugh. Is he a figure that's worth grading?
For $18, that kind of guy.
I think Fu Manchu is going to get the chopping block and say, do not grade him. I don't think he's worth it either. I personally think the 85 should be a lot more money than what it's going for. People don't care. They're not going to spend it for a white Bespin Guard. That's just a problem. So I find him to be another one that I would not grade unless it's for personal.
Right, and is it fair to say, based on what you've said about some other figures we've covered already in other episodes, you're saying baseline $15. If you found one, if you had one with nice paint and the gold really was nice, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy for $30, literally double the price.
You could put him up $20, $25. Like I said, it really just depends on the condition of the figure.
Right.
That's where the value is in my eyes. It's not the blaster. It's the figure.
I bought one for $40 at a show, and I thought I was crazy, but the paint was perfect and the gold was perfect, and I had no problems because it took me such a long time to find one with the perfect paint and the perfect gold.
The problem is that it's only going to be people like us and other people that know how hard it is to find would pay that. So when you're listing him on the page, and Joe Schmo, who is the average collector and doesn't really care that much, he's going to look at it and laugh.
Yeah. It's like, if you know, you know.
So
yeah. All right. Well, I'll tell you, I think I have 15 of those guys, and I don't think I have one that's what I would call perfect. You know, that I would really, you know, match up against anybody else's. It's just,
I have one that's, like I said, that I paid up for it, and then I also have one that has perfect paint, but no gold on it. And I don't know if it ever had gold on it or if it just got rubbed, but I kept it because it was cool looking, because it was just, it's completely blue with no paint, with no gold paint.
I've seen a lot of those.
factory error.
I don't know. Maybe it was rubbed off. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. A fun episode to cover those 4 figures from Empire Strikes Back. Thanks very much to everyone who's watching for hanging out with us. Hopefully this was helpful for any of the more novice collectors who are getting into collecting these loose vintage figures. And for anybody who's, you know, just looking for some advice on how to upgrade their current figure and what to look out for, hopefully this was helpful for you as well. Again, you can check out our channel on YouTube. If you're maybe listening to this on a podcast app, come on over to YouTube. We have a playlist of all of the previous, 4, 5, 6 episodes at this point. We're going to continue running through the line. You'll see those there as a playlist on our channel. Please support the show by clicking the like button, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube, and comment below. Is there anything that you have a question about these figures, any areas that you want to get a little bit more information on? We're happy to chat with you in the comments below. Please check out our Patreon as well. The link is in the description, and we will see you next time on 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.
Goodbye.